Greetings out there, and welcome to actually a new show. It's called Real Talk. Now, you might say to yourself, me and my co-host Joe Spencer, we host Tell It Like It Is, and what's the difference between that show and this show? Several things. The format, because in Tell It Like It Is, we have our suits and ties on, giving a professional presentation, and this is more or less kind of a laid-back, relaxed environment. We just discuss things like we're sitting at the bar having a conversation with other people. So that's what we're going to do. And today's topic is this, the 60s. And I was fortunate enough, and Joe, to have experienced that decade. These young folks know nothing about the 60s because if you ask most people, they will tell you this. What was the most probably important decade in the century? And hands down, it had to be the 60s. A lot of things took place in the 60s. The civil rights movement. We had a president assassinated. Just black people trying to, voice their opinion and say, hey, we're tired of being treated like second-class citizens. Got to do something about it, So I'm going to kind of walk you through my experiences in the 60s, and Joe's going to kind of give you his experiences. So I'm going to give Joe the floor right now and discuss, what were your thoughts and the take on the 60s?
Well, it was a renaissance of music and art and political unrest. In 1961, 62, I was 12, 13 years old, and I sat and kept my mouth closed, which my generation was taught to do. So I would see a lot of stuff. I lived in an oppressive household, an oppressive neighborhood, an oppressive school, and an oppressive church. I think I caught the last end of Jim Crow. And
explain to our viewers, younger viewers, briefly, what was Jim Crow? What is Jim Crow?
Jim Crow was a set of rules that the white people made in the South. It started in the 1800s to oppress and hold black people down, after slavery around. And it was a thing where if your grandparents were taught this, most people are taught by their grandparents and their parents. And they would pass these laws down how to be a safe black person. And when they came up from the South, they brought that with us. Keep your mouth closed. You gotta work harder than everybody else. You were born stupid. That was the message. You're black, you're gonna be held back. Period.
Accept it.
Huh?
Accept it. Huh?
Accept it. Yeah. Accept being a nigger.
Yeah.
And it lasted for years. There's still some black people in 2015 that's bringing their kids up the same way because that's the way they were brought up.
I mean, you only do what you know.
You do what you know.
Whether that's good or bad. Because some of my thoughts on the 60s was, and I was a little guy, but I do have good recollection. I got such a good recollection that people tell me that I'm crazy and this is not true, but it is. I could describe to you, Joe, vividly where I lived when I was a baby. Mm-hmm. I can recall laying in the crib staring at the ceiling. My crib was near the window. You come out the bedroom where I was, and right out the bedroom is the door to go out. I remember the hallway that led to the kitchen. I remember the hallway that led to the living room. And I was a baby when when I lived there. I mean, literally a baby, not a toddler or 4 or 5. I was literally 2 to 3 years old, but I still remember that. I got good memory. So I remember the 60s, and I think what was most, noticeable to me was when the president, I was literally 2 years old then, but I remember 3, 4 years later how that was still an impact it had on people, and they talked about it because, we talked about that, or my mother and father talked about that a lot in the household, and I remember listening. And it's just amazing to this day. And one thing that I would like to know before I leave here, which I probably won't, who killed Kennedy? I mean, who actually pulled the trigger? Because there's so many versions. There are people coming out of the woodwork saying, I did it. I know somebody who did it. It was that guy. It wasn't that guy. It was this guy. The only thing that I do know that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, for a fact, I know that he didn't do it. But unfortunately, we would never know because our government did a good job of covering it up. And it's like, to this day, we won't know or don't know who actually killed Kennedy because Kennedy was trying to make some monumental changes for everybody. He wasn't a part of the good old boy machine to say, we're just going to continue to do things the way we do. He's like, no, let's be fair to everybody and try to make everybody life worthwhile and give them, a sense of pride and dignity, and help everybody, not just certain groups of people, and I mean, we did a whole thing on Kennedy before, so I'm not going to really expand on that, but, I'm going to go to my grave not knowing who actually killed that man, and it's like, just really want to know the truth, but we'll never know,
Well, look, Kenny was Irish Catholic, and one time in this country, Irish people were treated like black people. Period. Older Irish guy taught me that years ago. Like he said, not to get off the subject, but it could have been several fractions who killed
Yeah.
Kennedy.
Because we do know, and I'm not going to go into this because this deserves a whole nother show on its own. We do know who killed Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been documented. It makes sense, and we understand why. But with the Kennedy thing, it's like we only know that there were some people that disliked what he was trying to do. And the things that he was trying to do were just fair things.
He wasn't part of the good old boy
Right,
group.
they were not trying to allow change. And it's like, we're going to just kill you because you about to change up everything. And, we worked too hard to build this. So it's unfortunate that he was murdered and his brother was murdered for the exact same thing. It's just unfortunate because, again, a very pivotal point in our history was the 60s. Again, the civil rights movement, the Key State murders when these young white kids were protesting on behalf of everybody, everybody, not just them, just mainly actually for us to say, hey, we don't even want you. We see the injustice that's taking place with black folks, and let's stop this. Let's just try to all get together and work together. And then, the National Guards guys came, and they didn't supposed to shoot, but somebody started shooting.
To this day, I don't understand why their weapons were loaded.
Exactly.
I don't understand. I don't know why they were bearing that up.
Exactly, because I seen the documentary, and supposedly they supposed to have blanks.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you need rifles for a bunch of young white college kids that are not carrying guns or knives, and not posing a physical threat to you?
Well, being a hippie, that was a phrase, with long hair, they were basically white niggas.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, they looked at them as less of equals.
That put them outside of the white race.
Right, and how
They
dare
were
you,
like-
protest for another group of people that's being unjust.
Not just another group of people, the rights of all mankind.
Yeah.
The injustice that's been going on for hundreds of years in the United States. A lot of my white friends, when they became of age and got into college, they began to realize and understand what slavery did to this country.
Yeah.
In the name of God and country, and a lot of white kids were they were in shock. I knew white kids were never taught about slavery. Period. It wasn't discussed.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of them didn't even get it in school.
No, I mean, it was downplayed and suppressed.
Yeah.
And until they actually started to interact with people that could tell
Right.
these authentic stories, they were appalled by what they heard.
Right.
So let's touch on another important event in the 60s. Technically, and you taught me this, the Vietnam War actually started in the 50s.
Started in the 50s.
But it continued on to the 60s. I think it lasted like 10 years,
Yeah.
and millions of people were killed. And here is the thing, and this is for most wars or situations that cause us to go to war. They usually are brought about by a lie. And
Right.
the lie was to get the Vietnam War kicked off was there's supposed to have been some United States ships in that area, and they were bombed. So it's like, how dare them? Let's do this. When we found out, we found out later that event never actually happened. It was just a lie to propel another war. And that's what we've been doing through the centuries, down through the centuries or decades, that when we want to go to war, we create a false issue that we respond to.
I think they've been doing that ever since the Roman days.
Yeah. Because World War III was World War II. Hopefully, we won't have another World War III. But World War II was the same thing.
Somebody know.
Yeah, for real. It was based on a lie. It was based on something that was not actually true. So a lot of people, and most of us don't know this, we got our ass kicked.
Yeah.
That's a war that we officially lost. We didn't even come close to winning. You know, so it's unfortunate that a lot of young men and women lost their lives over some nonsense. Because here it is, 2015, and we got all this technology, big screen TVs, cell phones, internet. You know, it's just amazing the stuff that we have. But yet we can't all sit down globally and try to map out issues and resolve them. We're still like cavemen. You know, the answer to the question of we disagree is I'm gonna send some people over there to kill you.
Kill you.
A whole bunch of innocent people that got nothing to do with our argument or our beef. It's just unfortunate and very sad to me that in this day and time, our only solution to conflict is still war.
It's still
That
war.
we still send innocent people who got nothing to do with our beef, the government's beef with another government, send them over there to get killed.
When you have a population where they're born and they get old enough to get into the war and drafted to go to the war, something's wrong.
And then the other thing, the motivating factor to war, unfortunately, is the issue that supposedly got us there is secondary. What's most important is fill in the blank. What is war? What is war actually about?
Is it about race, property?
Nope. Come on. Give me one more guess.
Money.
There you go. Money. It's about money. There are a lot of people that make billions of dollars when war kicks off. And unfortunately, people that go over there to fight just barely make enough to pay their rent or their mortgage. And they run the risk of getting killed.
You run the risk of getting killed.
But these other people are making millions and millions and billions of dollars as far as building the weapons, building the planes, building all this other stuff, that will equip us to go to war. They're making a lot of money.
12, 13 years old. What is a Vietnam? What planet is Vietnam on? What's a Vietnam?
Exactly.
Well, it's over in blah blah. What are Vietnamese people? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Where is this at?
And there's stories that unfortunately our government left a lot of POWs over there.
Yeah.
And they actually lived out the rest of their life there, wondering, hoping if they are ever coming
home.
As early as the the early 80s, that there was accounts of POWs from the 60's Vietnam War still over there, alive, still there.
Still there.
Eyewitness accounts of
And
people seeing these people, because it's quite obvious to distinguish Vietnamese. They got a complexion to their skin, a certain height, and you see this tall white dude with a beard. And it's where did this guy come from?
I've heard stories of particular people, men, who decided to stay there.
Yeah, some have decided to stay and take families or build a family, but
move into the woods and chill.
But it's just, and we're gonna close it off on this because we could actually do a whole hour of this, but time is of the essence. But just want to say this, I thank God I grew up in the era that I did, the time in this world I did, because I've experienced a lot of good stuff along with a lot of bad stuff, so, that's my take on my perception of the 60s. We might do the 70s, another show on the 70s. So on that note, we're going to say, until next time, we're going to do a series of these, real talk, like we're going to continue to do our show on Tell It Like It Is. So we thought we'd do something different, a little more laid back, a little more, So on that note, we sign off until next time. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Yeah, later. Be blessed.